file server in Bun using the Bun's file.io APIs. That's what we're going to see in this video. If you want to learn more, do stick with me. Hello and what's up guys, Medium Guy here, and in this video we're going to see how to create a file server using Bun file.io APIs, which is totally integrated with Bun itself and actually does not require us to install any additional packages. So right before I start this video, don't forget to watch other videos in this mini video series all about Bun, how to utilize it, how to dockerize it, and things like that. So without any delay, let's get down to work. So as you can see over here in the file.io Bun documentation page, we've got things for reading files and writing files and things like that. So in this video, we're going to focus on the reading files section. So as it is stated over here, by creating a Bun file instance, which represents a lazily loaded file, and actually initializing the bun.file does not actually mean that the file will be read from the disk. So bun.file has many features. The most important one that we'll see in this video is the feature for streaming files. So actually we'll be sent back the files to the client when any request is received by the client as a readable stream. So if I move to the VS Code over here, you can see that I've got the things necessary for creating the file server is prepared over here. So I've created this project with the bun init command. If you want to learn more about how to interact with Bun's CLI, don't forget to give a visit to the previous videos in this mini video series. So here I've got all the files and configurations and stuff that I create in my videos, which I'll push to my GitHub repository, and you can find the link down in the description section. So over here in the index.ts file, which is my main file that handles the file server itself, as you can see, I've defined the base path to be the /public, which exists right over here beside the index.ts file and holds some directories and files in it with many different extensions. So over here I've got a isDirectory function which actually checks for a given path to validate if it is a directory or not. And next over here I've got a generate directory links which gets a path as the input and actually looks for its files and directories inside it and then creates some A tags with the links exactly the same as their names. So basically this function will be creating some links on the HTML page that will be sent to the client so that the client can actually list the files and directories in his current directory, and by clicking on them we'll be able to change through the files and directories. And over here in the bun.serve section I've got the fetch method, which I've set it as async because of some functions that I use inside this method. And over here I've got the file path, which is actually the path that the user is requesting for. And over here I've got an if statement which actually checks if the requested path is a directory and will try to actually return the directory listing instead of the file's content itself. So actually this if statement is relied on the process.env.directory listing environment variable, and if it is set to true and also the path that the client is requesting for is a directory, then some HTML will be generated and will be sent back to the client. So over here you can see that a h1 tag is returned plus a pre tag that calls the generate directory links and pass it the file path that the user has been requesting for to this function. So basically this function will check the files inside that requested path and create the link tags, which will actually be put inside this pre tag and will be sent back to the client. And over here I've got a header that sets the content type to text/HTML. So if the requested path is not a file or the environment variable for the directory listing is not set to true, or here I've tried to create a bun.file instance and pass in the path that the client has requested for. If Bun finds that file and validate that it is a file, it will send back the file as a stream, and if not, it will actually go ahead and throw an error, and over here the error will be caught with a status of 404. So that's the whole logic behind this file server using the Bun's file API, which has the streaming integrated with it. So over here I've got a .env file which has the port that the project will be listening on, and the directory listing is set to true. So basically, if the client requests for a directory and not a file, the whole logic behind the directory listing will be run and the relevant generated HTML will be sent back to the client. So I'll set this back to some value other than true and we'll see the result. So if I move to the terminal, over here I'll hit ls and make sure I'm in the right place, that I've got my project files over here. So actually in the package.json file, I've got a dev script which runs bun-watch index.ts. So if I say bun run dev, actually that exact command will be run, loading the .env file. Again, if you want to learn more about these commands and configurations and stuff, you can watch my previous videos in this mini video series. So right now my project is listening on the 8080 port, and if I go to the browser on the localhost 8080, you can see that if I make a request to the root path, I get the directory listing of the files that exist in the /public beside the index.ts file. So in order to validate this, if I go and check inside the public directory, you can see that I've got a directory and 3 files, one being txt, HTML and mp3. So if I click on the HTML, you can see that I get a rendered HTML, and if I go back to the index.html file, you can see that it is an actual HTML file. Just ignore that it is saying HTML is a programming language. So I'll go back, click on the file.txt, and over here you can see that I get the content of the txt file. So we can validate that the bun.file handles the relevant headers that are sent back to the client, and as a result the browser knows how to handle those received files. And also if I go back to the test.mp3 file, you can see that it again can detect that it is a mp3 file and actually decide how to handle that response. Also, if I go back and try to click on the dir1, which is a directory, and we can see the result that it is appended to the URL path over here, and actually because this is a directory, the isDirectory function will be returning true, and the relevant links, which are actually the files inside that directory, will be generated and sent back to the client. So as the last point, if I go back on the .env file, if I change the true to false, and because this is an environment variable, I'll need to stop my server and again run the bun run dev. So basically the --watch will not actually handle the environment variable changes, and we actually need to restart the server ourselves. So right now if I go back to the browser and try to make a request to a directory, if I hit refresh, you can see that I don't get any responses, and if I go back, again I cannot list the directory of the root path. But if I, like for example, say file.txt, you can see that I get the content of the file.txt file inside the /public directory. Also for the files that exist in the dir1 /file.txt, again I get the content of the file that I make requests for. Just I cannot list the directories because in the .env file I set the directory listing to false. So that's all for this video. I hope you learned something new in this one. If you have any questions, any recommendations, of course go ahead and ask me in the comments section down below. Also, don't forget to watch other videos on my channel, and especially in this mini video series where you can find other features and other videos about other cool technologies. And if you like the content, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, which will help grow my channel. and motivate me to create more free contents like this on YouTube. With that, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next videos.